Welcome to another edition of Inside Expekt, and I'm with my great friend and colleague here, Richie Sheridan, and we're looking at this midweek roll of international friendlies.
Yeah.
Richie, the first one we're going to look at is probably the most exciting of all of them, Mexico against Spain, which is on Wednesday night at 2200 hours. And the odds with Expekt are Mexico 3.15, the draw 3.20, and Spain 2.15.
Yeah, I mean 2.15 Spain, world champions and European champions, looks a bit good, but they're travelling over to Mexico, 2,000 feet above sea level.
Yeah.
Altitude is always a problem over there, and they'll have a bit of jet lag as well.
Quite how much they'll really want this game.
I don't you know, it's just FIFA putting these fixtures in, irrelevant to how the players are feeling. So I think Mexico are not a bad bet there.
Well, they went out at the second stage in the World Cup, but they were impressive, weren't they?
They were very good, weren't
they looked very good going forward.
And they got 12, out of the 19 players, 12 of them were playing in South Africa. For Spain, Iniesta, Albiol, Torres and Reina are all rested.
Yes.
So, you know, it looks good for the Mexicans.
And of course the incentive is to try and turn over the world champions.
Well, yeah,
so
exactly, they're for the beaters.
Maybe a little bit of an incentive there for the Mexicans.
Yeah, I like Mexico.
Moving on a bit then, we've got Sweden against Scotland.
Yeah.
It's a difficult game to have a very strong opinion about. We haven't seen a lot of either of them recently, have we? Sweden 175, the draw 330, and Scotland 430. Yeah. How do you see this one?
Well, we see money for Sweden. Obviously, we have a lot of Scandinavian, customers. But it's 3 days before the Scottish season starts, so Craig Levein, he can do without this. And there has been a few withdrawals. So I can see Sweden doing that. Zlatan will be playing probably. Yeah. So I can see Sweden turning over Scotland.
Then moving on, Denmark against Germany. This looks a very exciting game actually. I mean, Denmark again, they went out of the World Cup at the first stage, and the Germans, as we know, got to the semi-finals and then lost 1-0 to the Spanish. Denmark 275, 320 the draw, and 235 the Germans. Are you a bit like me? Do you see a little bit of value possibly in the Danes here?
I don't know so much. I think Germany were the second best team in the World Cup, but only 8 from the squad have made it for this, for this friendly. Yeah. But out of that, there's only 2 uncapped players in the German side, so there's still a lot of experience, even though there's not many players from the South Africa. I can see Germany still doing this. I mean, Denmark were quite good in the World Cup.
Yes, but just a little morsel of interest for those of you out there. In the head-to-heads recently in Denmark have won the last 2 meetings against the Germans. So they seem to be up for these games. Yeah. And moving on now to England against Hungary. I mean, we're desperately unhappy at the way our side played at the World Cup, and this is a chance for them maybe to redeem themselves.
Yeah, a fresh start for Capello maybe.
Yeah, I mean the Wembley pitch has undergone almost more surgery than Katie Price, so we'll see how that stands up to the test as well. But England, what do you make of it, Richie?
Well, as I say, it's going to be a fresh start. A few have gone by the wayside: James, Green, Cole, Crouch. Even Defoe, they're all rested for this. Rooney looked nice and fresh, didn't he, during the Charity Shield? So Wilshere and Gibbs from Arsenal, the young boys, they get a taste of the England setup. But 1.3. I mean, we've seen money for them. I can't believe people are still back in England.
Exactly, and of course, in a way, you'd have to say that the FA might have cherry-picked a relatively easy fixture to try and sort of get back to winning ways, so to speak.
But a lot of these players, again, it's 3 days before the Premiership starts.
Yes,
they're going to have their eyes on that. I can't see any value whatsoever.
Hungary's recent international outings have been relatively modest affairs, and the last 2 occasions have been absolute hammerings. They got hammered 6-1 by the Dutch and 3-0 by the Germans. I don't think the Hungarians are anything special, but as we saw at the World Cup,
you don't want to trust your money on England.
Well, absolutely, and I would say if England didn't get off to a flying start here, it wouldn't take long for the Wembley crowd to get on their backs. So.
Maybe low goals is the way to go here.
Yeah, and then moving on to another team that somewhat underperformed at the World Cup, France. They quite possibly were even worse than the English, but anyway, a chance for the French to get back to winning ways. They're away in Norway. We've got Norway 230, the draw 310, and the French are 290. What do you see? I mean, what can you say about the French? They were a disaster at the World Cup.
Well, they were. But, I mean, Laurent Blanc's taken over from Dominic. I mean, Dominic, you know, he was a man waiting to go, wasn't he?
Yeah.
So a nice fresh start. Laurent Blanc, all the squad have got a 1-match suspension, and fair enough, to be honest. I mean, they were a disgrace. So they've got 13 uncapped players, France. Benzema comes in, Mexes and Nasri.
Yeah.
So they're all in for France, but I mean, you know, with all these uncapped players, they'll be trying their hearts out. Bit of an experience, so yeah.
And obviously Norway, they haven't had any competitive fixtures as such for quite a long time now. They've only been playing friendlies, but they have won 4 of the last 5 against Montenegro, Slovakia, Switzerland and South Africa. They've beaten some relatively decent sides, albeit in friendlies.
Yeah, but I can see France. I mean, 2.9, you know, it's very rare you get a price like that. But you know, these uncapped players, they're going to be trying their hearts out.
But they do, well, you hope so for the French sake actually, because they can only go up, like England, they can only improve. So there we are, that's a quick wrap up of what Richie and I think are probably the most interesting of the international friendlies. Just to point out, all of those games are also available for live betting purposes, so in running odds the whole way through these games. So anyway, enjoy the international friendlies. Let's see what happens then. From Richie and I, it's goodbye for the time being.
Cheers.